Welcome back to my gaming tutorials, I guess. I guess I gotta go off on it. Most of my tutorials are all about my gaming habits. So this one is going to be about Obsidian MD. Obsidian MD is a PKM, personal knowledge management application. And it's going to be a little bit of advanced tutorial for Obsidian users. Basically, I'm going to show you how to do a grid layout within Obsidian. Now, basically, Obsidian takes Markdown text syntax, so everything's written in Markdown text, generates HTML, and basically what you want to do is then convert that Markdown text or that generated HTML into a grid. So you sort of have to understand, the first part of this video is you have to understand how Obsidian converts the Markdown text into HTML, and then basically we'll take that generated HTML and convert it into a grid. Because you can't just add a grid to it or complex tables. That's sort of the limitation, some of the limitations of grids. So we're going to be basically working with one of the templates I started working with or recently created. You can find this under Circus templates. We won't get too much into this in the first half of the video. One is going to be the conceptual model behind it, and then how to do things, and then we'll actually get into the code part for it. So again, you should have Obsidian installed. You're going to need a note text editor. I use Atom. I also use VS Code. I just find Atom's nice and easy for doing that. So let's just get an understanding first with again, grids. So a grid basically is just a bunch of elements, HTML elements, with styles applied to them, and the parent style, basically the wrapper or parent, is set up as a display grid. So, and basically you specify, spacing between there, the columns and the rows are default, so it's fairly straightforward. So even though, this, you would think A, B, C, D would come in vertical order. So again, if I remove all this styling, oops, you see they come in grid order. It's only when we apply the styling does it apply the grid. And so again, if it breaks it down into columns, the columns do not have to be consistent. So again, you can have a short column, wide column, and even a wider column at the end. You can also specify rows, which we will be doing, background colors, and stuff like that. So all it is, again, is basically applying a grid CSS attributes to your elements. In this case, they're divs, to create a grid layout. Now, within Markdown, the problem is we don't really have divs that we can assign to. And so if you take a look, this is a test, sample line here, more text here, and then take a look at the code that's generated. So this is straight Markdown code. So again, if I put bang, header line here, bang, bang 2, smaller header, etc. So this is just Markdown code, Markdown text. We're in edit mode. If I go to view mode, again, it gets rid. When I click on it, it just doesn't edit it. I am using Obsidian. I have basically the default, no special. We'll actually turn that guy off. Well, so if I turn that off, you'll see these guys don't format properly. So I'm just going to turn that back on because we'll use that as an example. But that's the only snippet that I have in here. So, but if you look at this, if you inspect this, to inspect it, you hit Control-Shift-I, which brings up the developer tool. So underneath the hood, basically Obsidian is Electron, which is a Chrome self-based browser engine application. And so it uses developer tools. So if you're familiar with Chrome developer tools, you'll fly through this part real easy. So again, as you mouse over an element, it highlights it. So again, here's the header bar at the top, that has tutorial Obsidian, stuff. And so here's the page view. So again, if I drill into here, I just drill down because I want to find basically this code that you can see is generated. So here's the sidebar or side dock ribbon. This is the folder ribbon. And so this is the pane view ribbon. And then there's the left leaf and the right leaf. Again, they're not labeled. That's just because I opened them up. So again, you can open up multiples in a new pane. So this will add a third one here. So again, first, second, third. So we're just going to close that. Every time you drill down into something, whoops, or every time it redraws, it sort of throws you out a level. So you always got to be careful. So we want this pane here. We're going to drill down into here. And so again, drill down. Here's our content. Okay. And then there's two tags here, which is sort of important. One's called Markdown Source View, and the other one is called Markdown Reading View. So as you can see, when I mouse over this guy, nothing's highlighting. Okay. Whereas when I mouse to that guy highlights. And that's because I'm in edit mode. So this is the source mode or edit mode, and this is the review. So if I switch to review, and then I down over this one, that's it. So basically it just hides the divs behind it. The content's all the same. It just, it hides one div, shows another div. But we'll want to work mostly in the source view. So again, I'm going to drill down here. It's going to bring into here. So here's the editor. Here's the scrollable area. And basically the content and the div here. And so you can see that the markdown text that I put in here, it basically creates into individual divs. Okay, which would be great if we want to create our whole page into a grid layout. So if you want to create a whole page into a grid layout, you've got divs to work with. And it's pretty much just like this. You do have to apply a style. And so basically to apply a style to the page, you just go put your CSS class, sample page here, okay? And then we'll see up here, where is it? I think it's up here. The container div is where it puts that style. Now, the problem is this is nested several deep. And the parent doesn't like to have its children nested 7 deep. So you basically would have to apply this class style, okay, this guy right here, and then to make the whole page, and then find this div. Actually, you need both divs because you'll need to use the view div as well. Find that div, and then drill down into here. And then these are going to be your block elements. Okay. But we're not going to do that. Most people don't want a full grid layout, but maybe for a character sheet you would. So we're just going to get rid of that for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something similar to this page where we have blocks, which are grids. So basically sub-blocks of a page so you can lay things out. Okay. The easiest way to do that is a call-out block. So to do a call-out block so let's just do a block quote. Basically, a call-out block is a special block quote. So again, here's our content. So again, each div within a block quote is its own line, which again doesn't really help us. But if we do a block quote, and a block quote is done by bracket, bang, and then an ID, sample data value, and test here. So now when I go down and look here, it basically creates my sample data value as a callout box. So this is what it looks like when it displays. So it basically creates a block. And the nice thing about this is in your content is your text. So again, if I put, more text, that is all contained. So again, we'll drill down in. Oops, right here it is. And here's the callout block. You can see basically everything's in one child. Now the problem here is that it's all one paragraph, which doesn't help us. Because again, we need individual elements to be able to apply styles to them so we can get the proper layout. So this doesn't help us 100%, but it's getting us there. Basically, we're in a wrapper, and I keep losing it because it keeps refreshing this. So we're in basically this sub-content wrapper callout, but there. So now the way to get around this is basically making a blank line between each one. So if I do that and I come back here, we'll just widen this a little bit out. And then I drill down in again to my callout. Here's again callout content. You can see each line is now a paragraph, an individual element similar to here that we can now stylize. Okay, so basically it will allow us to apply CSS to these paragraphs tags, which will then convert it into a grid. Okay, so what we need to do is first we need to know what we want our grid to look like. So in this case, we can go CSS grid generator. Okay, there's a bunch of online ones. Okay, I use CSS grid generator Liffy. Okay, it's fairly simple, fairly nice forward. It generates the code for you, and so I'll be using that. The other part that we need is we need our general layout. So again, as explained, I created weather templates, okay, which basically are just snippets of code that convert into an HTML grid. We're basically going to be, this is what I currently have, and somebody asked me for a vertical layout, so we're going to be creating this. So let's just hide this one. We'll shift this in and just zoom in a little bit. And so this is basically the grid. Okay, so we sort of need to lay this out, and you can do this in a pen and paper, you can do it in, you know, Paint or whatever. It's just basically breaking the section you want into different pages. So in our example, we have several rows. Okay, oops, let's get a new layer. That was my first attempt to do this. Actually, it was about my fifth attempt. We have a row here, a row here. Here's a row, 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 row. I have a very thin row here, and the reason for that is because this line, it allows me to put a solid line. When you're working with grids, if the grid doesn't match up perfectly, the lines don't work off. Where if I have a grid element that goes all the way across, it's easy to do the grid. So we then have another row here, another row here, another row here. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows. So if I go out here, I'm going to increase this to 10. Okay, and then I have 3 columns. Column 1, column 2, and column 3. Okay, so again, and that's because this image is basically one width, and I want everything lined up to it. This image is 2 widths of that column, and then this is everything else. So I'm going to want to shrink this down to 3 columns. Okay, now one of the things that CSS does for grid alignment is its numbering system. So right here is 1, 1. So it starts 1, 1. And so this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Even though there's not a 4th column, it's the start of the 4th column. So when you see the grid, so if I create an element here, and it's going to start at 1, 1, and it's going to go 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then this, since this is 1, it's down 1, so 1, 2. So this is 0.24. So if I say generate the code, you can see it starts at 1, 1, and it ends at 2, 4. So again, 1, 1, 2, 4. So what this tool does is you just basically hold your left mouse key and draw, you know, the grids you want. Okay, however you want, and they don't have to be in order. Okay, so there's 6, you know, here's 7, we'll make that 8, 9, 10, 11. So however you want to lay out, they don't have to be in order, but it makes it easier if they're in order for the most part. So we're just going to reset that. So again, looking at here, I've got 10 columns, 3 rows. So the first data is going to be here, and that's going to go across. Second one is my image, that's going to go all the way across. Third one, hurricane, the weather, that's going to go all the way across. This one only goes 2, okay, because I don't want to take that third one. So this goes 2, this is 2, and this is 2. So again, 2, 2, and then this one's 3 vertical for this image here. So this guy right here is 3 vertical. And then I've got my blank line that it's going to go all the way across, and that's just for ease for styling. And then I've got this 2, 3, and then this guy is 2 wide, 3 deep. So again, 1, 2, 3, 2 wide, and 3 deep. Okay, so I have 12 divs. Now, again, I mentioned to you that order doesn't matter. Basically, the order depends upon your content order. So again, let's go back over here, and let's just go like this, and shift, no, I didn't want to do that. Shift this guy off, and we'll just edit this. And so basically, let's go season, summer, okay? Image, okay? And this is hurricane. This is wind, which wind weak. Okay, this is colder than normal. Now this guy is my next element. So again, if we're looking at my grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I go over for this image. So that's this image over here. So go back here. This will be temperature image. Okay. Now, just if you're not familiar, hopefully you are. When you hit enter again, it takes you out of the block. So it's just it's easier just to cut and paste a bunch of these. So I know I have 12, and I'm on 7. So I'm just gonna paste the rest. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So this guy is my horizontal rule. This guy, again, looking at this, whoops, went too far. This is going to be night. This is going to be mostly cloudy. And this is, I'm just going to put squally, that doesn't make sense. Breeze, light breeze. And this again is my night image. Okay, so here's my basically all the elements that are on here. Now obviously this is an image, so we'll put the image in here. Now this is, I'm using my example images, so this is tornado. Whoops. Okay, and then down here we have another image, which is the syntax for an image, and this is temperature, colder, cold. Okay, and then this one is another image, and so this is going to be cloudy, or mostly cloudy, night. So again, if I convert that, you can see basically I have everything in here. So, and this is basically a call block. So now all we have to do is style it. So if we drill down into here, yep, there we go. We drill down in, oh, nope, this one right here, call out content. Here's my paragraph, summer. There's the image, hurricane week. So again, temperature, colder than normal. Here's another image, but they're all paragraphs, night and light breeze. And then last my image. So they're all elements. We just, again, need to style them. So rather than using divs, so if we go back, rather than using divs to apply our styles with, different classes, we're going to apply these to paragraphs and with the different classes. Okay, so let's go here. We've got all our elements, and now we just need to lay them out. So let's go back to the web browser, our grid generator, and here we are. Now by default, this is going to have the values in there, and you're sort of going to have to know what these values are. So basically, these are 35 by 30 pixels. This is, I believe, 216. So again, this is 40 pixels, 30, and then I think each of these are 25. We'll make this one 5. So I'm going to go through. I know this is 35 pixels wide. This is 35 pixels wide. Okay. So that's gonna give me that. So basically we're close to there. Okay. And then this guy. Now one thing I'm gonna do is see how this guy, let's expand this a little bit. Let's get rid of that grid. And see how the first thing in here is summer, and then I have the image. If I look at my existing layout, the first thing in here logically is the image, followed by, top reading order, the season summer, then 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So again, same thing, 1, 2, 3. So only these two are sort of mixed up. So this is actually normally my first element, and this is the second element in this layout. So I want to use the same template. So what I'm going to do is, again, as I said, divs don't matter. So let's reset the grid. I'm going to make this my first grid and this my second one. So that's the only difference that I'm going to do here. So again, this is my 3rd. 4th only goes 2. So again, 4th, these 3 only go 2. 5th, 6th. Here's my 7th. Here's my 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and then the 12th one is here. So the only thing I did was I rearranged this starting div. Okay, and that's because, again, my JavaScript code that generates the code for here is looking for the image first. And so by having this here, I don't have to change my JavaScript code, and I can go from this layout to this layout, because again, the order of the content doesn't matter with that. Okay. So then we're going to go back here and we're going to say generate. Okay, so this gives us all our layout. So here's our layout. So again, looking at, this is our HTML, which is generated. So here is the grid. Again, grid columns. And then basically it specifies columns, column grid rows, and like that. So this is the same syntax. Well, pretty much the same syntax for there. It has not picked up. Yes, it has. Yeah, there's our 235s. And basically, we're right now spacing all of our rows evenly. We'll fix that as well. So I'm going to grab this, and we'll go back to Obsidian. Okay. And if we go down here, we know this is our container. Okay. But this is like the parent of our container. Here's our actually container. So we don't want this title in here. So this is actually our container that contains all our elements that we're going to space. So let's go here. First, we're going to create a HTML file. File new. Okay, I'm just going to call this weather, or put a comment in here. Weather generator vertical layout. Okay, and we're going to save that. Now, again, this is going to be a snippet, so it goes under your vault name, .obsidian, and then snippets. And you can see I already have one there. We're going to call this weather generator vertical .css. Okay. So again, we want to identify this top level. So if we pull this out, which is right here's our callout code, okay, and to identify this, it's got a class of callout. So let's just take this and go .callout, okay, and let me just show you this here, and we'll make the background white. Did I specify that wrong? Callout. Oh, I forgot that. So down here, under settings, because we saved this new style sheet, we got to basically turn it on. So you go to appearance, go down to snippets, and you see I don't have it. I reload my directory, and I think it automatically applies. But worst case, you just have to apply it on there. Okay, so that loads it. Once you do this, it will automatically pick up any changes to this file. So it's nice that you don't have to keep reloading. So as you can see, when we applied white, it applies it to all my callouts. So all three of these are callouts. But I don't want to do that. I just want to apply it to this one callout. So let's turn that off. Let's keep it on for a second. And then, so how do I identify this unique one? Again, it's this name here that is unique. So again, how that is done, it's basically a data attribute called callout, or data callout, and it has this value in there, which is the ID, lowercase value of that ID. Okay, so if I go back to where we were, here we were, and I go here, and I copy this, okay, and say callout with the attribute, and to specify an attribute, you put it in brackets, data callout, where it equals that, and then save it. You can see now that it only affects this one. Okay, now I'm going to rename this real quick. We're going to call this ORPG-weather vertical. Okay, so now when I go off of that, it's no longer white because I changed this value. Oh, it's all lowercase. So because it converts it to lowercase, right here, this guy. So that's the only thing you got to be careful about. Okay, so again, that's just naming standards. Now, for all my IDs, I prefix them with ORPG. That's just my prefix. If you're sharing your code, you want to have a standard so you don't overwrite other people's naming standards, unless you're sharing something that is supposed to overwrite somebody else's. Again, then you name it whatever obviously they named it. But if you're creating your own styles, again, it's usually often good to prefix it with some type of acronym or something, just so it doesn't overwrite other people's styles. So again, here we got white. We're going to now turn that white off, as obviously we have this image targeted. Now, once we have the image targeted, we don't want this header bar. So again, if I drill down into here, you can see this header right there is this div right here. So it's got a class of that. So I can easily just, let's throw that, and we know it's under this object, and it's a class, okay? And then basically I just want to say display is none. So again, it's gone. It's still in the HTML, okay? So the element's still here. It's just got a display over here of none that I can toggle on and off. Because again, what our grid is going to be this guy here. So we're going to grab that again, and we'll break that. And then for our grid, this is the callout content, okay? Sub-element of vertical, weather vertical. So again, I'm just going to put that class there. And so now this guy is right here. As you can see, our CSS right here. So if I could do a display, or let's do background, color is white. And again, that shows us that we've got the proper target. Okay. So now that is our parent element for our grid, because all our elements are under here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here and copy this. And again, how I got to there was I just said, hey, I did my layout, and say, please give me some code. And basically I'm going to take that and go back here and just paste it right in there. Okay, and I'm just going to clean it up real quick because I like somewhat easy readable CSS. So now you can see when we applied it, it automatically threw it into grid. It automatically put our rows into it. So again, if you go here and highlight that element, you can see the grid. So you can see some dotted lines over here. Okay, see the dotted lines? It's showing you where the grid elements are. Okay, now right now it's thrown because we basically said everything is there. And I don't like repeats because I'm often modifying them. I'm just going to put 35 pixels twice. Okay, which does the same thing. So if you again look at over here, it does the same thing. And for here, we don't want to have that as well. So again, if I look at my Photoshop and I turn this on, the first one I know is approximately 30 pixels, okay, or 20 pixels, sorry, high. This is 200 pixels high, or I think I specify it as 200, give it a little padding. This is 40. and these down. So again, you have to know these values to start working with this, and you'll just have to compute how high you want them. So I'm going to get 10 repeats of 1FR, and so my first line is going to be 20 pixels, and then I'm going to go 200 pixels, and then I want 40 pixels, and then I'm going to go 30 pixels for that, and then 25 pixels, and I'm going to do that for the rest of them. So we've got 10 rows, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so if we then shrink this down, we're starting to get a little bit more layout, still not perfect. We know that, where is it? This guy is only a couple pixels wide, so I'm going to shrink him down, and he happens to be, for my grid element, he's my 8th row. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my CSS, find the right file, and so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8th row, and I'm actually just going to make him 5 pixels. So, and where are we with our Obsidian? And we still didn't notice a big thing. And that's mostly because of our images are out of whack. Okay, so now, if we look at our grid, we have this specifies each of the grids. So by default, it's throwing every paragraph in a different grid. Okay, that's why this image is so small, that image is small, and this one's so big. So what we're going to do is we're going to specify our grid. And so I'm just going to pull this down here and paste it in there. And you notice there was no change there. And that's because these are looking for class names of div 1, div 3, 4, which we don't have. Okay, they're paragraphs, okay, with no class names on it. If you could have put the class names on, which you can do with Obsidian attributes, you can specify that. But it gets messy when you start having complex grids. It doesn't always like it. So I just find it easier to do it this way. So again, we know we're within callout content. And so again, so here's callout content. And so this is our leading element. And then this is a paragraph. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this with that and go paragraph. And then I'm just going to clean this up real quick. And you can see that it now threw that big image in the back. Okay, so there's my image for season summer or season 2. But the problem is it just applied that to all the paragraphs. So every paragraph here is the same one. So how I want to identify the different paragraphs is I can just say nth child. So basically nth child says the nth child of this element. Okay, so the paragraph in this case is the nth child, and we're going to give it a number. So in this case, 1. So summer now goes from 2.1 to 2.3. But if you remember, we swapped these two around. So div 1 is here, div 2 is here. So in my CSS, this shouldn't be the 1 child, which points to season. Where are we? That's season summer. This is actually, I want 1 to be this guy and 2 to be this guy. So the nth child 1 should actually have this grid layout here. Whoops. Okay, so now when I look at it, it's there. And then this will be 2, so I don't want to lose that. So let's copy this. And we're going to paste this here. Okay, and make that 1 and this guy 2. Okay, so that's sort of, I'm doing it a little backwards, and I probably should have not for this tutorial. It's just because we swapped these two around. That's the only difference. So 1 is 2 and 2 is 1 is all we did. Okay, now we want to do this basically for the rest of our divs. So again, we have 12 divs, and we're just going to go down through. And so again, I have 12 paragraphs if you go down through. So I'm just going to grab this code right here and replace it from there. Starting 3, this will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and whoops, 12. Now let's just close this off a little bit. Oops. Okay, and then I'm just gonna hit some returns to make it cleaner. Again, this is more just personal preference. You don't have to do this. It's actually more inefficient because you got more spaces in your CSS, but it really doesn't affect. So if we then go back to here, we then got a whole bunch of things laid out. Okay, so it seems much closer, you know, season, hurricane, week. And so now we're close. So now we need to just fix some things. So our image 2, which is this guy here, so image 2, we want to just say, well, I know I want my image height. So again, this is going to be there. So if I look at this tag, paragraph 2, there's actually an image tag under here. And so basically I just want to specify, right now it's using the max width. Okay, so I'm just going to specify that. So again, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to say image tag, and I'm going to give it a width of 200 pixels. Okay. Now, the other problem we have here is we have this one FR. I know from my layout of Photoshop that this is approximately 144 pixels. So I'm going to change this from 1FR to 144 pixels. And there we go. We now have at least the start of this layout. So this is too large. If I shrink it down to normal, there we go. So again, we're very close. So obviously the border is wrong. So we're just going to go up here and apply the border to our callout. We're just going to go border, 1 pixel, solid line, and we'll start with white. Okay, we change that. But again, I want other people to use this, so I'm going to make sure I use some variables. I'm going to use text accent. So how you specify the variables in your CSS is just var and then put the variable name in there, and you can see that changes to purple. Okay, so that's got our line down there. So again, if you go here, where is it? My call out, which is this guy here, all the way at the top. He's taken that whole block, and I don't want that whole block. Again, my Photoshop file is only that wide, which is, whoops, has a width. Again, you need to know, you'll have to figure this out, is 216 pixels. Okay. Now, you'll notice it threw a scroll bar in here. Okay. And so, again, I don't want the scroll bar. In fact, if we look at it again, get rid of Photoshop, go out here. You look at the content, you can see that our grid is offset because we have padding on the left and the right. Okay, and there's also the scroll bar. So we're going to change, just go up here, because again, the default elements will have this padding or styling, so you'll have to turn it off. So again here, if I then look at it here, that's a little bit better. Okay. This also has to go down on this guy. So margin. I also want to zero out the padding. And to get rid of the scroll bar, this guy here, whoops, what did I just do? Oh, I just collapsed it, that's all. 0 pixels, and I basically want overflow hidden. Okay, so that got rid of that. But you can see we're still not aligning properly. And that's because, so if I go here and we drill into it, content, So again, now you look at my grid, and my grid follows my background color. Nice and smooth, right to the size. But my paragraph, it's got all that padding. All these things, like, it's got this padding. So again, I'm going to do just a little trick is I'm going to go down here and say, well, paragraphs, I don't want padding. So padding is 0 pixels by default. And my margin is 0 pixels. Okay, so now I've got that guy lined up to the top and go down through. So again, we're going to look at this content. And this is, so all that's really left is styling. So again, this is child 1, okay? And I want him justified to the right. So I go to my child 1, and I'm just going to go text align right. So it throws it over to the right. I want his font weight going to be 800. Okay, so he's now bold. Okay. For this guy, oops, keep clicking on it. We're going to make this guy bigger. This guy, these guys we want to text align right. So I'm going to apply that. And again, for my elements, which I keep losing because I keep drilling into it, is temperature. That should be aligned right, and that should be aligned right. So that's 5 and 6. So I'm just going to go down here. 5 is aligned right. Text 6 is aligned right. And then also these two, the bottom two, 11 and 12 should be aligned right. Or 10 and 11, sorry. Okay, so that basically aligns all that stuff to the right. The HR, okay. Now, if we get rid of the HR, because we really don't want HR in there, it throws everything off. And the reason for that is because when it generates the content, you can see basically we go from image to night. So because by removing that HR, we lost that code in there. Whereas here, we're expecting some elements. So it doesn't create a paragraph tag, even though there's a blank, the separate blank line in here. So you actually have to just put a non-breaking space or something in there, okay? And then that will realign everything. Now for that, this is our 8th, whoops, darn it. This is our 8th line or div. So again, I'm gonna say, oh, we already fixed that, I think, 5 pixels. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yep, 9, 10. Okay. So let's do our fonts for the 3rd layout. So again, we're going to say font weight is 900. Font size, you can put specifics. I'm actually just going to say XX large. Okay, so now it's a nice large font. Let's shrink this down a little bit. Okay, then we'll go the next guy. We want this guy to be font weight of 800. Okay, that's there. So that's 5, 6. So again, this one we're just going to give a color of blue. Okay, it's not the exact color that I use, but gives you the example. Okay, and then for the 8th child, so again, here is our 8th child. I'm just going to say border top is 1 pixel, solid, and again, I want to use my var, and we used text-accent. And again, we can just confirm that up here. Text accent, and so when I save that, it puts that line right across there. Now you can see the image is overlapping it from 7. Okay, so I need to resize that image slightly. So I'm just going to put an image, and here I'm going to go height, and I know this is 75 pixels. Okay, so that just shrinks that down. Okay, so this guy's still giving us a problem, the night. So let's just drill down in, see what's causing his problem. So the non-breaking space is too much height. And I forget how I did that. Let me check. Hold on. Oh, I'm missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's why. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's actually, this guy's 5 pixels. This guy's 25 pixels. There we go. Messed up my styling. Okay, so there's that. I want to change my font colors. So by default, we're going to go color. This is going to be variable. We're going to use, real quick, text muted. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that. And semicolon. We're going to put that there and there. Why is that not picking up? Did I not save this guy? Oh, if I could spell color properly. Okay, so that just gives it there. And there we are. So that's how you do a grid layout. Again, what you're doing is you're identifying that this block is made of paragraphs rather than divs. And the fact that we can't put a class easily on each of these divs, we basically just specify them using p child 7. So when I edit this, as long as I change this value, weak, blustery, it shows up in the proper div. And that's pretty good. Now, obviously, we need some spat padding here on the right, padding on the left. So again, on child 1, padding on right is 10 pixels. That will end there. And here we'll go down here, which is 3 and 4. I'm going to say left. And we want it down on the night, which is the 9th one. Okay, so that just indents that side. So it gives a little padding on the sides. And so that's pretty much it. That'll be the template that I push out, and we'll go from there. If you have any questions, please reach out and ask me. Thanks.